It never fails when I hit the play button and I'm outside. The planes start flying, the bees start buzzing everywhere. Oh, the wind's blowing. So bear with me, y'all. I'm just trying to get a video out. Okay. Today, I really wanted to talk about 8th grade. This is my daughter's last year of middle school. Next year, I'm going to have 2 high schoolers, and it has hit me so hard towards the second half of this year. I was getting their portfolios ready, and I organized their work in high school in like a portfolio folder with their work so that I can have it if college ever requests it. And so I was setting that up, and I looked over at the titles of the binders, and one title was my son, 11th and 12th grade, and one title was my daughter, 9th and 10th grade. And I just froze, y'all, like froze. And this just huge amount of emotion came over me because I just kind of panicked on the inside. Like, you mean I only have 4 years left? I mean, I started this whole homeschool journey 10 years ago. And before I finally relented to what God called me to do, I fought him. I told God I will never homeschool my kids. And I was adamant and stubborn. And my kids went through more than they had to go through because of my disobedience to God. And that caught my attention. And when we finally said we're bringing our kids home full time, no more hybrid homeschool this, which there's nothing wrong with hybrid. It just wasn't what God was calling us to do. And I knew that. I was just trying like, well, maybe we'll go to a small Christian private school. Like, surely that will be okay with God. And finally, I just said, okay, you're calling me to do this. I was in tears at the kitchen table from the frustration we were going through, putting my kids somewhere that God didn't even want them to be. And I knew that. Finally, I just said, you win. Like, it's all for you. And I brought them home, and the peace that came over our household and the immediate closeness of relationships that started forming. And God just amazed me every year on every blessing that he's given us for just following his calling on our family. And I realized the other day, I never would have known what I was missing if I wasn't obedient to his calling, because we have a choice. And he has so richly blessed our family. I can't even put into words the feeling that I felt when I looked at those portfolios and saw 9th and 10th grade and 11th and 12th grade. And I was proud and I was excited for them. But the mama heart in me just sank because I realized, man, like, I've blinked and 10 years have gone by, and it just hit me hard. And I really wanted to make the most of the next 4 years that I have. I only have 2 years left with my son, 4 years with my daughter. And it just blows me away that we're already at this point in our homeschool journey. So I know the days are long. We have been through some stuff, but truly the years are so short. It's just so true. And just cherish that time with your babies, even though they may not be your babies anymore. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about my daughter's 8th grade year. And this year I had high expectations for what I wanted to do to prepare her for high school. And I know the type of student she is. I know the curriculum that works for us and doesn't work for us by now. We've been doing this long enough. I know, but I was unrealistic in my planning in some areas last summer before we started our school year. And on top of that, there's always things that you can't foresee when it comes to health with your children too. Sometimes you have a really healthy year with your family and you're really blessed, and that's great. You can buckle down and focus on things and you tend to get a lot done. This was not that year. We were hit with a health crisis, and she's okay, but we were hit with a health crisis. And it derailed everything. And at one point, for several months, she was only able to do about 50% of her schoolwork. She just physically and mentally couldn't do anymore. And so remember in those times that it's okay. Just do the very core basics. I always go back to math and English. And if all she does is her math lesson and reading, in those moments, it keeps us moving forward. So that's kind of what we did for a while. So everything that I planned definitely did not pan out. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. This is super chatty. I don't have a lot of visual aids or anything, so I hope you guys are okay with that. I don't think I've ever made a video yet on this new channel where I've gotten just real and kind of raw with you guys. And I guess this is kind of the intro to the real me. And I hope that comes across for you guys today. One thing that we wanted to set out on in Bible study this year was studying the Old Testament. And I love Not Consumed. I met Kim a long time ago at a Teach Them Diligently conference, and I have used her products off and on throughout our homeschool journey. And so we decided to pair up her God story, which was a survey of the Old Testament, along with the Faithopedia. And I have a video about that. I'll put that up in the cards so that you guys can click on that if you're interested. But we have been using that combination, studying the Old Testament. It's been really great. Loving it. We also have interjected different topical Bible studies when one of the kids was going through something that a study could really speak to them and help them through that situation. We did a couple read alouds at the start of the year. We did one of the YWAM books on John Newton, and we did the Swiss Family Robinson. But we used the Generations Swiss Family Robinson, where they went back to the original manuscript and reprinted it. Because over the years, publishers have taken more and more out of religious content. And it was actually written as a religious piece of Christian fiction. And so we went back and we read it, and y'all, I'm not going to lie to you, we got through like 3/4 of the book. And we were all just exhausted. It was like treading through mud and trying to run a mile through mud. It was painful and it was long and it was very redundant. And we were all asking, when is this going to be over? Because we've read the contemporary version. We knew the story. I just wanted to read the original work just to compare it. Y'all, we couldn't get through it. We couldn't get through it. We tried and we tried. We even took a break for a little while and tried to come back to it. And all of us, the looks on our faces, we were just like, okay, no more. So we did not finish that and shelved it, and that's okay. You know, after that, second semester hit, and I always have huge aspirations, and first semester goes really good, and by the time we get to second semester, it's really survival. Every single year, it's survival. What do we have to do to get through the rest of this year? I don't know why that is. So you'll see us do a lot of read alouds and a lot of extras in the fall semester. You will not usually ever see that on my channel. It's just not realistic for us. And I don't know why we have that pattern, but we do. And it's been a very long-term pattern where I think we just have to accept that's who we are. For math, it was a total win. We switched to Denison pre-algebra. Y'all, I'm going to have to do a video on this to tell you my daughter's math story, because the fact she took a pre-algebra course this year was a miracle. She was diagnosed with a math learning disability years ago. We had her tested because she was struggling in several areas, and we wanted to see what we were dealing with so that we could help her efficiently. And just the fact she took pre-algebra, trust me, miracle. I will make a video on that. But she absolutely has excelled with Denison pre-algebra. I actually wrote him an email the other day just to explain her story and what his curriculum has done for her. And he was so grateful that I shared that with him. I don't think, you know, curriculum creators and publishers always hear when things go wrong or things people don't like. But I would encourage you, if you have a really positive experience with a certain curriculum, email them and let them know, especially if it's a smaller curriculum author. It really gives them the boost that they need to keep going, especially when they know they're making a difference. So I would just encourage you to do that because his response was just so grateful, and it was neat to converse back and forth with him for a little bit. English was where I was unrealistic. We've just talked about that. And y'all, I have tried to use Abeka in our homeschooling journey off and on for 10 years. And every single time it is a flop. Every single time it creates tears and frustration. And I don't know why I feel like I keep needing to go back to it. It's like, Jenny, just learn the lesson and let it go. And it's the same with BJU. With my kids, those curriculums are harder than they have to be for them. And they don't learn that way. And so I'm not saying anything's wrong with those curriculums at all. They've stood the test of time. And I know a lot of people love them. And so I'm not bashing the curriculum. I'm just saying that's not how my kids learn. And for some reason, I just every 2 or 3 years bring it back up again. Like miraculously it's going to work and I should know better. So I bought the Abeka grammar and the Abeka vocabulary for my daughter because grammar is really hard for her to retain. It always has been. We have tried literally every curriculum on the market. I've done hands-on like the Winston grammar. I have done the textbook like the Abeka. I've tried BJU. We've done all sorts of things. This year we did an interactive grammar notebook after we ditched Abeka because I knew better. We started working on that and it was fun, but it was so teacher intensive that we could only work on it a couple times a week because of everything else I was having to juggle in the week with homeschool stuff because I have more than one kid, so I have to divide my time. And so grammar has just been really hard. And so I don't know if you guys have seen my video. I'll put it up in the cards, but we actually are going to give Language Lessons for a Living Education 9 a try. And it's already too advanced as far as grammar goes for her. And so we're actually supplementing with Michael Clay Thompson's Voyage level. And I explained in that video why we choose that level and what we're doing. But grammar just isn't sticking. And it doesn't make sense, and she doesn't understand why she has to know it. And we're not going deep into grammar where we're going to be getting into like things she'll never see again, like gerunds. Okay, we're just not going to do that. But I need the basics to stick with her. And so, anyway, I could probably say all year long we have tried a lot of different things, and it still is not really. She's still not really retaining that. And it's okay. We'll just keep working. We'll keep trying new things and we'll end up where we end up. Because of what personal health issues she was going through this year, I decided just to start the year with creative writing. And so I used the Good and the Beautiful's creative writing journal. And it was something that brought her joy that she looked forward to doing every day. And when you're going through a really hard time and you still have to do school, it's really nice to have that one thing that you really look forward to. And that was this for her. And so she really enjoyed it. She even pulls it out now. And she works on building characters and characters with different personalities. And she gets a complete kick out of that. She loves it. And so she does love her creative writing. And I was glad that we found something this year that brought her joy. So that was one. At the end of the year, when Language Lessons for a Living Education 7 came out, we wanted to buy the PDF of that so that we could give it just kind of a trial run. it's laid out so similar to the high school level that I wanted to see just if she would like it. And she loved it. And we have used it off and on ever since we bought it. I had her do 3 or 4 full weeks of how it was structured because that's what her high school English is going to look like. And then after that, we decided, sorry, I have my laptop here with notes and it just gave me my screensaver and I couldn't see my notes anymore. We decided now towards the end of the year, we really just wanted to work on our writing more. And so I pulled out different writing lessons from it, and she's been working through that, and she's been doing really well just to get her paragraph writing back up to speed because she'll be introduced to essays next year. So I just wanted to get her writing and just back in the habit so that she could be prepared for that. So we've used it in all sorts of different ways. And don't be afraid to do that. Curriculum is here for us as a resource and a tool, and we're the teachers. So if we see a weakness and we want to focus on one thing, then we can do that. You don't have to be stuck to the schedule that comes out from a publisher who doesn't know your family or your kids. So just a tidbit there for you. Literature, she read a lot this year, and she finished Heidi, which we love the Generations version of Heidi. We did get through that. It's much shorter than the Swiss Family Robinson, and it does incorporate the biblical principles that have been taken out over the years through secular publishing. And y'all, I would highly recommend the Generations publishing version of Heidi. It's so good, and we both just fell in love with her and the grandfather, and it is just, it doesn't matter how old you are to read that book. It's just beautiful. So yes, we got through that. Again, she read with us with the Swiss Family Robinson, and we shelved it after 3/4 of the way through. It's okay, whatever. And she read the Hunger Games trilogy, and she just finished the prequel to it now. And she's just really been enjoying reading. And for her, if you give her a little room to breathe with reading, she'll read a whole lot. If you put her in a box with reading, you have to read this, it becomes a fight. And so for the end of this year, I have let her do what she wants to do. I just want to know that she's reading for 20 to 30 minutes every day. And that's all I ask for right now. So that's working for us. She's already been taking 4 months of a World Lit course through Redefining School. There was nothing wrong with that course. We completely loved it. But after 4 months, she was kind of burning out with it. And so we just stopped it at that point. But she had such good exposure. Let me see. She did The Necklace, the short story. She did The Ugly Duckling. They did poetry with Robert Louis Stevenson. They did The Two Brothers from Tolstoy. So she learned about literary elements. She did a little creative writing. She learned a little geography. They got on a Zoom call every once in a while with other kids her age and all shared about literature and talked about what they were studying. It was really good. I highly recommend that course. She's also, her name's Mindy, and she is a Christian. It comes from a biblical worldview. She is actually starting a high school course, and I believe they're releasing information on that in May. So if you're interested, look up Redefining School and bookmark it for May so that you can see what they're doing for high school. She has a really good thing going over there at Redefining School. So that was kind of English, and yes, it was all over the place. And if you followed that, congratulations. I didn't even follow that. It was just one of those years, y'all. But we kept at it. We kept working. We made it work for us, and somehow we're almost done. So we'll just leave it at that. Science this year was going to be fun, and we already knew it was going to be fun, and it totally exceeded our expectations. We had a great year. The first half of the year, we used the Good and the Beautiful's unit studies on the human body. And so we studied the human body. We studied, well, it was called Health in the Physical Body. Then we did Health in the Human Mind, which was exceptional. We did the maturation and sexual reproduction, and we did the safety unit. We found that she really had outgrown the safety unit. So that was not very effective, and we didn't do all of the lessons in it because some of them were really, really childish, but all the other ones were perfect, and we learned a lot. and we had good discussion, and that was a good semester for us. The second semester, she did a food science course called Inquisicook, and y'all, we found them at Teach Them Diligently Homeschool Conference last year. They were a vendor who had a booth. They had their program set up so you could kind of see what it was about. And basically, as you were cooking different recipes, you're focusing on different things in each chapter. You will learn how ingredients work together to give you certain reactions in your food. And so you're learning the science behind the food as you're having fun in the kitchen. And my daughter has been in the kitchen since she was like in first or second grade. She loves baking. Baking is her favorite thing. And much of this course was baking. And so she's learned a lot, and she's had a great time with it. There were 5 units, and we're just finishing up the 4 out of the 5 units. So we won't get to the 5th one, and she's kind of getting burned out because it is pretty intense, but at the same time, she's learned a lot, and it's been a really fun semester of science. So that's been really cool. I highly recommend that program. There's also an advanced one that's Inquisicook 2, and I would recommend that one for high school. Just by what I've seen as far as what's required of the student, it seems like more of a high school level. Okay, for history, again, I didn't really plan super well with this one. We started out with Knotgrass, the middle school version of world history, which is called From Adam to Us. She did Uncle Sam and You last year, and she loved it, and she did fine, and she really wanted to do world history this year. But because of some of the health issues she was going through physically and mentally, it was really hard for her to read these textbook lessons and then retain the information to be able to answer the questions. It would take her over an hour just to get through some of the reading, and I could just tell she was struggling so hard. And so she is not my textbook kid. She doesn't always learn well that way, but she loved Uncle Sam and You so much, we just went for it, but it just wasn't a good fit for her this year. She was going through so much outside of school that this was just really demanding on her. She has ADHD. I don't even think I mentioned that, but sometimes she can be reading an entire page and stop and be like, I don't really know what I just read this whole page. And because she kind of tunes out. That's her form of ADHD. And so it was just really challenging for her. It was really hard for her. And so we just decided, you know what? Totally fine. We're going to set it aside and we'll try something else. And so we went to unit studies like we were doing for science, and it was totally fine. She really enjoyed it. We actually chose a gather round unit study on Antarctica, and it was really fun. And honestly, I never knew there was such rich information on the continent of Antarctica. But if you have a chance to use the gather round continent studies, I would highly recommend them. Some of their units I wouldn't recommend, but the continent studies are fantastic. We did Asia 2 or 3 years ago, and it was one of our favorite units we've ever done. So I do highly recommend those. Okay, electives, we're almost done. Both of my kids together used CompuScholar Digital Savvy this year. And basically it's a 1-year elective, and we just called it Information Technology. But they learn all sorts of things, from hardware to software. They learn the basic like spreadsheet program and processing program. They learn a little bit about design. They learn a little bit about building a website, social media, and how to carry themselves and what to share, what not to share, email etiquette, how to organize their files on their computer. I mean, all sorts of stuff. And so basically they just watch a video. They take a quiz to make sure they understand what they watch. And usually there'll be anywhere from 3 to 5 different videos before they have an activity. And then they have a test, and then they move to the next unit. And my kids have both done really well with it. And they like the PowerPoint presentation was probably one of the most impressive projects. They also had a project they had to work together on. It was their midterm, and we counted it as their final exam because We're not going to finish the entire program. We don't have enough time in our school year. But I was just blown away by what they could do. Knowing they hadn't really done a lot of that before, I would highly recommend this program. Also, there's a sibling discount. So if you have more than one child taking it, you can email them and find out how to get the sibling discount. And so you're not paying 2 or more subscriptions full price. So just know that that's available. Okay, so part of her health crisis that we went through, it really affected her ADHD, her executive functioning skills. We kind of regressed in our journey with all of that. And so I went on Teachers Pay Teachers and found an executive functioning workbook. And it walks your student through what executive functioning is and how it's broken down into different tasks. And with each task that they struggle with, what are some strategies that they can initiate to help them with that specific task? Y'all, great. I will link it below in the description box, but it has really given her some great ideas and strategies, especially with her schoolwork, but even in her day-to-day life of just trying to keep her room clean and organized. That's really hard for her. It always has been. And so if you know anybody with ADHD, you would probably label them as a messy person or see their bedroom as looking like a tornado hit it or whatever. There's piles everywhere and it makes sense to them, but it doesn't make sense to you. And so their brain functions and operates differently. So it's also helped me understand her better. I've read the lessons along with her. Like, she does the workbook, she turns it in for me to check, and I just read it because I want to understand too. I'm a super organized person. I like everything in its place. So we are complete opposites. And it's just really helped me be a little more empathetic to how she learns, how her brain works, how she thinks about things. So I would highly recommend it. Another thing that we worked on was we let her go ahead and start American Sign Language. She has been so pumped up about doing American Sign Language for several years. But I wanted to make sure she could get high school credit for it, and I wanted to make sure she felt good and she was kind of over what we went through and she was ready, and she was just mentally prepared, her physically great, and she was ready to get started. So we went ahead and signed her up. Even though it's the end of the school year, she's going to work on it through the summer, and just so she doesn't forget everything she's learned. And we take short summer breaks anyway. You would probably call us year-round homeschoolers, but kind of not. What we do is we school for 6 weeks and take a week off. In the summer, we take 6 weeks off and then we go back. So we take a lot of breaks throughout the year. We still get in our 180 required school days, usually more. And we just take a 6-week break in the summer. So that's kind of how we work. But she's going to use those 6 weeks to do her ASL. She loves it. It's fun for her. She's excelling in it. She's remembering week to week the new things that she's learned. And she's even seen this as possibly a career down the road. So I'm just really proud of her. It's nice to see your kid, after going through something really hard, to just blossom and do well and excel in what they're doing and enjoy what they're doing, and like, the brightness is back in her eyes, and that just makes me so incredibly happy. So that's what 8th grade has looked like. Like I said, I didn't even know how to start this video because I thought, how do you even describe this year? And some years are just like that, but she's done well. She has learned. We've made adjustments, yes, but it's been a good year. And if anything, just a character growing year of, if you persevere, you can get through hard things. And I think that's a life lesson in itself. So that's what 8th grade looked like for us. Thank you for sticking around for a 30-minute chat with me. I'm so sorry it was long, but I wanted to go through everything and just let you know kind of what this year looked like for us. I will be announcing what we're using in 9th grade all in one video, and I will have visual displays for you for that one. This one, I had already sold some curriculum that didn't work, and she's still working on some stuff, and I didn't want to carry it all downstairs. You get it, right? So yeah, we just talked about it, but thanks for sticking around. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to just to join the channel and be a part of our community. And yeah, that's it for today. So in the next video, I'll be talking about what 10th grade looked like for my oldest. See you in the next one.